Hello, hello, hello. Welcome for another episode of the Author Spotlight. Hey, it's the host with the most, your main man, Darren M. Palmer. So excited to be with you where I go behind the scenes with best-selling authors and change agents from across the globe. Today we have on the beautiful and brilliant Dr. Sobers in the building today. Say hello to the people, Dr. Sobers.
Aloha.
I'm just going to share a little bit about this young lady. Dr. Shauna T. Sobers is the CEO and facilitator consultant for Shauna T. Sobers LLC, a company specializing in leadership education and consulting for supervisors, student organizations, individuals, and teams. She is passionate about helping people recognize their talents and express it in their own way. For over a decade, Dr. Sobers has been advising leaders of all levels as well as presenting and facilitating workshops on Clifton strengths, based leadership, employee engagement, women's empowerment, and career advancement preparation. Now, I just shared a little bit about your bio, Dr. Sobers. I know you got TED Talks and a plethora of other things that you have. But I want to welcome you to the show and please fill in any of the gaps that I left out of your bio.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me. It is an honor and a pleasure to be part of your um, those who can call you a champion and a mentor. So thank you very much for
Oh,
having
man.
me. Um, Additional things I would say is I currently have a full-time job at University of Texas at Austin, Hook 'em Horns, where I am the assistant director for residence life. And so I've been working at universities and working with student organizations. And through that work, as well as my work as a dancer, I really identified that my why and my passion is recognizing that everyone has the potential to lead.
Mm,
Everyone has the potential to lead. And recognizing that leading, as I think about dance, is both knowing when to follow and when to lead, knowing when to take a step back and when to take a step forward, and when to dance in place. And so a lot of what I do is not only working with students, but recently my passion has been working with supervisors and those that don't really get to um, be trained. You get promoted and then you're put in a place and then you don't really know how to interact and engage with folks in that way. And so learning how to use imagery and analogy and assessment tools to really help walk alongside folks. That's something that I really recognize is something that I can and give and share with others and that I have a talent in.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sobers. And could you just elaborate a little bit because I don't want anybody to lose anything in translation. Can you be specific when you say dancer? Because I don't want
Yeah.
anybody to lose translation. So,
Uh-huh. Uh, so I grew up dancing, grew up in New York City. And so definitely single parent household. And so my mom put me in as many activities as she could to keep me off the street and on the right path. And so certainly I grew up with ballet, tap, jazz, um, uh, Afro Caribbean dances. And then as I got older and then minored in dance in undergrad, um, when I was going through the doctorate and divorce and other personal things, when I recognized that I needed a place of solace, I went back to dance. And so when I went back, it became partnered dance. And
mm,
so salsa, bachata, Argentine tango, um, dancing that required communication, nonverbal, spiritual with the music to be able to lean on someone and be there for someone to be able to get through it. And so I recognized that there was a correlation between that type of dance and the work that I was doing day to day with student groups and at universities. And so that is what my TED Talk is on. It's called Dance of Leadership. So salsa, mostly bachata.
Okay.
Latin dance.
Okay, thank you so much, for going a little deeper into that. I didn't want anybody getting the wrong ideas on here. So they would be like, oh man, she was talking about dancing. But with that being said, it's a direct correlation by what you're sharing with me with the dance and also what you're doing for as facilitating, doing workshops, and
Mhm.
also doing keynotes far as presenting and speaking to corporations or whatnot, and also nonprofits. And I want those who are tuned in to understand we are real big on transferable skills and how you can utilize something that you might think is just a hobby or just a passion, how it can enhance how your empathy for as the people that you work with, also your skill set as well. And I think that Dr. Sobers does an excellent job of having a holistic approach of how she lives her life, and also I think that's what allows for her to be relevant when she's able to step into a corporate setting because of that. So for those who are tuned in to this particular podcast, I want you to look at how can you incorporate this time with arts and crafts with your kids, whether it's something that you are taking upon yourself and how you feel through that morning walk that you take or exercise that you do, something that you're passionate about, if it's knitting or whatnot, or if it's just journaling. Those skill sets, the mindset that you have can be beneficial in all areas of your life. And, when we talk about this, we got you on the author spotlight because you're part of a co-authored book that we were able to put together or whatnot. And you added so much value with the many roles that you play in life. So I love your leadership component to that book, The Footprint of Success. And so if you don't mind, share a little bit about why did you write the chapter that you did write for The Footprint of Success, if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely. So when Darren asked me to be part of this compilation, the chapter was advancing in leadership for a person of color is what it became. But the chapter title that I was given originally was like advancing in leadership, maybe as a woman of color or something like that. And I am already working on my book of Resilience Tree, and based on my research of women in executive leadership positions, um, and how they got there, not thinking about the deficit of what they're experiencing and how bad it is and woe is me that there's not an opportunity, but rather looking at people who are already there and thinking, okay, you made it through, what made you make it through? And being able to learn the lessons from them and give that little bit of a Robin Hood, give that to those who are aspiring to be in those positions. So when I got the opportunity to do a chapter, a small nugget, and some breadcrumbs to what was coming in the book, I really was reflective of, okay, what's something that has struck me from doing this research. And one of the things that that struck me is one that I'm really surprised that I'm writing, and I did research on something having to do with color and race and identity and intersectionalities of that, because I have spent so much of my career, my life, trying to ignore it, because I've been in settings where I've been the one or the only. And so, what this research gave me, the gift that it gave me, was language and a structure to name what I was going through, and to be able to say, I'm not alone in this, and others have gone through this, and I can learn from what others have gone through. And so what I did in the chapter was explain one of those concepts that we think we know, but there's more to it, and that's tokenism, or being a token. And so I go into, what does that actually mean? How did that play out and manifest itself for my participants, but also for me as living, using my lived experience to kind of tell the story of what is this maybe textbook type thing, but that bring it to real life. And then being able to not just stop there. Again, I'm really about this positive. How do we feed? How do we feed each other? And so taking that lesson of what is this tokenism, and then recognizing how we can use those lessons from my participants and myself to become resilient in the face of that tokenism that we often experience, especially for me in university settings, a system and a structure that was created for not people who look like me. And so how do I navigate and operate in something and in spaces where I'm integrating the space? So providing some feedback, some suggestions, some strategies for coping, so that other people can take that with them, that nugget, and be able to advance in whatever elements of leadership they're working on at the time.
Great points, Dr. Sobers, and because you're not the only one, as the great singer and king of pop Michael Jackson once said, "You're not alone." There's so many people, no matter what your gender is, no matter where you are on the socioeconomic ladder or your sexual orientation. I think we're all facing situations where you could this method or what you see for as how certain systems are created, that you might feel like that you're on the outside looking in. But also, I love what you bring to the table is that you're solution oriented. And I think that so many are focused on not finding finding a way to have inclusion, not understanding or not having dialogue. I can't say that I want change or it's not set up for me, but then at the same time, I don't want to have the dialogue, or I don't want to work through anything, or I don't have any suggestions. I don't have any way that we can, merge or close the gap far as what we're experiencing or whatnot, for whether it's dealing with being looked at as a token or those not being aware of it. So awareness is key as well. And I think that you do an excellent job of bringing that to the forefront. So I got to ask you this, because I know people are wondering, how in the world do you juggle TED Talks, being a facilitator or whatnot, keynote events, working full time, doing dancing, doing competition, competitive dancing and stuff is like that as well. How do you do all the things that you do? I know that you are Wonder Woman and all, but other people don't know that. But just kind of share with us, how do you find time to create content and do all the other things that you do that you're responsible for?
Don't try to do it all at once.
I love it.
Is one way that I do it. I would say I paid attention to what my talents are. I paid attention to what things bring me joy and fill up my cup, and what things motivate me and make me feel good. So once you know and you're in tune to what those things are, then you can find ways to do that more in more places. Find the people who make you feel that sense of self-worth and that lift you up, challenge you, believe in you, and make you feel better. So surrounding yourself with those people, doing the activities that are that bring you joy, but also that ground you. For me, the hardest thing about doing all that I do is to unplug, and to remember to unplug, and to remember to slow down for a minute. That's really hard for me. And so that's been a lesson and a journey to know how to turn off the switch. And sometimes turning off the switch means being able to focus on something else for a minute. And in so doing, that's when your creative juices for the other thing, the problem, is being worked on in the background of you being able to focus on something else. And so sometimes my juggling many things is a way to help me work on the thing that I'm not presently working on at the time. And so I might do yoga, and I set my intention before that class to say, hey, I'm working on this problem. I'm going to stop thinking about it right now. I'm going to focus on this. And by the end of that yoga session, I'm journaling, and man, I came up with a solution that I wouldn't have thought of if I just kept thinking about it. And so, like, each thing that I do is maybe an outlet for the other thing. I dance so that my body can get some time to be expressive. You know, I do my blog and my podcast so that my mind can get a chance to do its thing while my body is resting. You know, I do my yoga so that my spirit can really soar. That is my practice. And so each thing I do has its set time. So that's how I do it. I pay attention to when is the best time for me to be writing. Let's say I know I listened to a couple of your podcasts, and some of the suggestions given was to schedule in time. Well, I did that and it didn't work. And so how did I eventually make it work? Was to recognize what I was doing before and after that scheduled time. I wasn't setting myself up for success just by scheduling the time any old time. And so I had to pay attention to when was my mind most productive as it related to this particular topic. This for me is very personal, it's very vulnerable, it's risk taking to talk about things that make you feel like you're an imposter in settings. And so just after work saying, oh, now I'm gonna do gym time and now I'm gonna write, it wasn't working for me. And so I had to really think about, what do I need to be able to do that work, and give myself the grace and the permission to tune out, to relax, to have a whole afternoon of cleaning the house and clearing my space, or just vegging out on, binge watching a show. I needed those couple of hours, so then the next morning when I woke up, I could hit writing. The other piece that I did to help myself is to say, not that I need to write a book now, because that was too much pressure. That's too much. I would say, you need to write one sentence. That's all. Just sit down and write a sentence. Now, knowing me, the minute I write a sentence, it's a paragraph, it's a page. I've spent a long time doing it. But if you tell yourself, I'm going to sit for an hour, 2 hours, that seems so daunting that then you come up with those mental excuses and those games of, who am I? No one wants to know. I don't really know what I'm writing yet. Just sitting down, writing a sentence. And then I know this has been said before, but one of my dissertation chair gave me an article in one of our classes, and the title of the article, so excuse me for cursing, but it's Shitty First Drafts. But that was the title of the article. And it's like, the authors and the books that you read didn't come out that way the first time. And so recognizing that you just have to put something down. It's much easier to build and have feedback and be able to manipulate and change and work with something once you have something in place. It's really hard to have an empty canvas and then, write. And so just writing something allows you to then be able to sit, let it sit, go about your business, do something else, and then come back to it and see what you have. Oh, no, that's not what I really want to say. I really want to say this. But you needed to go through that experience first of writing something and then going back and reading it to know that's not what I wanted. Actually, I meant to say this, et cetera, et cetera. So those are some tools. I also, as I commuted to work, I would turn on my voice messaging memo and just talk it out. Because often, again, going back to that isolating feeling of sitting with the computer and a blank screen, it just, you get stuck. And so how do you do that? You can just talk it out. I would call my friends and say, hey, I want to talk about this particular section. Let me talk this out and record myself. And so now I'm able to, get some more material that then I can transcribe that or listen to that when I'm alone and trying to get the pages out for the next time I'm meeting with my consultant. So being able to know, hey, the next time I'm going to write a sentence, or I'm going to write this story, and then being able to make the time to do it when it is the right time for you.
Awesome. And you know what? You brought up some great points. I want to make sure that we dive into those. When I look at what Dr. Sober shared with us about the importance of utilizing what works best for her, that was important as well. Um, just like it's not a one fit all method or strategy far as how you do what you do. So those who are listening, whether you listen to a podcast or whatnot, that's what worked for that particular person. That's the reason why we have this show and others, so you can hear, hey, it's a combination. Some people can just voice record everything and then have it transcribed and do it that way. Some people like to just make notes or whatnot and come back to it at another time when they're at lunch or when they're at their desk or whatnot. Some actually just take isolated time and go off somewhere and create everything at one time. There's no right or wrong way. The main thing is understanding that you are a unique individual. You have to find that groove that works best for you. And I also want to just piggyback a little bit more on what Dr. Sober shared with us of the importance of knowing that you need to do something. Get something. It's always easier to come back and change something. I always share with people when they're creating content, when it comes to the steps, get one chapter done at a time, or start working on one thing and make a complete thought. I'm not telling you word count. I'm not telling you how many pages. Just make a complete thought, because you will be able to come back like Dr. Sober shared, and you're able to look at it. But once you get to chapter 5 or chapter 6, you're going to have more clarity on what you need to do for chapter 1, because you're able to have an overview of what you've already created. But if you're on chapter 1 or you're on chapter 2 and you're steady revising and revising chapter 1 and 2 over and over again, and you haven't allowed yourself to be creative on the other chapters or create other content, you don't know what you're going to run across later on far as the content that you're creating. So Dr. Sobers brought up some great points far as understanding the process of getting something done and get it down. Dr. Sobers as well, could you share with those who are tuned in, how can they connect with you? Because I know some, we're doing this for those who might check out this recording at another time. We're recording during COVID-19. A lot of stuff is shut down or whatnot, but we're improvising and getting the show done anyway. But how can people connect with you, whether it's to learn more about your services, to be able to book you to come and speak to their organization, or they just want to connect with you, period? Can you share any social media handles or website information with those who are listening?
Yeah, absolutely. First place is my website, ShaunaTSobers.com, and it's sobers, like not drunk, SOBERS. The S is at the end. And then Shauna T Sobers across other platforms. So Twitter, on Facebook, on LinkedIn. You can find me on YouTube. I have a blog, and I also have a page just for dancing called Dancing Sobers. And so you can find that on Instagram or Facebook. But I do, certainly, like we talked about, I do keynotes, I do individual coaching, team coaching, and I also do working with departments who have multiple teams, and being able to create some coaching and infrastructure that goes in between workshops, one-on-ones, all group things across 6 months to a year. How can we get an entire department to understand and be able to communicate and harness their talents even more? So I've done that as well.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Sobers. Go ahead and hit them with the hook on one more time before we end this show, if you don't.
Oh, wait, where is it? Where is it?
Oh, there you go. There you go. There you go. Go ahead and hook them for the great state of Texas.
Yeah.
Nothing but love. I thank you, Dr. Shauna T. Sobers. We will have you back for the release of your book. We know that you're doing the co-author book, but we will have the information how they can connect with you in the show notes. But I want to thank you again for coming on to the Author Spotlight. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Awesome. Awesome. For those who are tuned in, remember that this is the year for your new book. Until next time, be blessed, be great.